If your wish for your career is to get the job you want, the salary you want, the perks you want, and the working conditions you want, then there's only one thing you need to be focused on, and it sets the tone for the entire employment relationship. Check it out. Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Larry and welcome to another Careers and Companies video here on the Upmarket channel. Guys, I really appreciate your time and attention on our rather epic getting to know us video that I posted a few weeks ago. This is an important mind dump from us on our plans and our principles that will clarify and give meaning to everything that's to come so that you guys can have a pretty good line of sight to exactly how we can impact your career. This is the first in a series of foundational videos that will lay the groundwork for the entire channel with fundamental insights on organizations and also our human nature. And today, we're going to acknowledge the basis for pretty much all employer-employee relationships. And I'm going to talk about not only why this is important, but also where the danger is. You know, if you look around, you'll find that some people just have certain things that come more easily to them versus others in their career. So for example, they get their resume picked out of these massive piles and they're the ones who get interviewed. Or they're consistently able to negotiate salary and then later on raises. Or when there's layoffs, they always seem to be among the people who are left standing. Or sometimes you may find that within organizations, there's just certain people who get preferential treatment. So why do these things happen? Okay, sure, there's a little bit of bias and favoritism that does happen in organizations. I'm not going to discount that. But when you look at the bigger picture, when you look across all types of organizations and at the full spectrum of employees, you will find for most of them, they all have one important thing in common. They have leverage. What these people bring to the table gives them an advantage, not only over other employees and applicants for a job, but sometimes it gives them an advantage over the employer. They meet certain needs of an organization that others just simply can't. They have these unique skill sets and personal attributes that are just not easily found out there. Building and maintaining leverage throughout your career is essentially your ticket to not only continued employment, but career progression. And it's also a really cool bargaining chip for the times that you need it. Leverage makes you in demand from employers. Leverage makes employers want to keep you and accommodate you. And the extent to which you do not have leverage means you are expendable. Okay, let's break this down. People end up with leverage because they bring tremendous amounts of value to the workplace. Now, you might be sitting there wondering, as an employee or somebody who might be applying for a job sometime soon, how might I acquire leverage? Which is a great question. The first thing you need to do is recognize that it's not something that just naturally comes to you. And now as I say that, I can already tell you that's not 100% true, because in some future videos, we will be discussing human nature and some of the things that you are born with. But let's discount that just for now. And think about what we do on a day-to-day basis and how we manage our career. So we go to work or school, we listen to instructions, we do what we're told, we work as hard as we possibly can, and we see what that gets us. That is the most common default mindset that most of us share. And is that the right mindset? No. Have you ever heard of the term the lizard brain? There's a career book out there written by Seth Godin about 10 or 12 years ago, and it's on becoming a linchpin, becoming indispensable in organizations. It's a really good book. You should check it out, but I will summarize parts of it throughout the course of this video series. He didn't invent the term, but he popularized it in his book. See, the problem is that while completing basic requirements of a job does bring value to an organization, otherwise that job wouldn't exist, it doesn't necessarily make you valuable, especially if there's other people who can do that exact same job in the organization, which is probably the case for many jobs. Just kind of going with the flow and following the process these days doesn't necessarily get you to a better place. You need to look around, you need to assess your environment and take control of your own path. The leverage that you gain is a direct result of increasing your value. And consistent with one of the themes on this channel, you need to be doing this with intent. So where does value come from, and what are the things that employers find as valuable? Well, I present to you this list of what I call value drivers, and there are 8 of them. Now here's the problem. The first 3 are important. They are the 3 things that we tend to be the most intentional about. Like, I don't have the right educational requirements for this job, so I'm going to go out and get those so I can apply to higher paying and cooler jobs. Cool. So this stuff is important. The problem is these 3 items only get you into the game. They're like table stakes. They give you permission to be able to apply for a job. These 3 items are used more like screening tools or screening elements where recruiters will look to just see if you tick the necessary boxes. But this doesn't help you get the job. It doesn't do a lot to sell your candidacy because there are a lot of people that have these credentials as well. So it doesn't help you get the job. It doesn't help you stay on the job. And if you do stay on the job, these things don't play a significant role in helping you advance while on the job. The other 5 things in the list do that heavy lifting. And that's also mostly where your leverage comes from. So I ask you, what is your goal? Is it to just make it past the initial screening? Or do you want to get the job and keep moving once you're in it? Question for all of you. How many of you are currently and actively and intentionally, oh my God, you're going to get so sick of that word. I apologize, but there it is. How many of you are currently and intentionally activating a plan to develop any of the 5 bottom value drivers that I talked about a minute ago? For example, how many of you are actively working to increase specific knowledge that you have, to improve technical skills, interpersonal skills, or incubate better personal attributes that can be more productive in the workplace? How many of you are activating a specific plan to do that right now? Oh, wait. And I mean like a real plan with like goals and shit. Any of you? If you are, I want to hear about it. If you're not, I still want to hear about it. But if you're not, hence, one of the big takeaways from this video is you need to be doing that. I need to create leverage for myself by having a deliberate plan to build indisputable value in the most powerful ways that employers care about. All of us need to be doing that. And it doesn't need to be some crazy over-the-top plan with so many action steps, but you always need to be working on something to keep it moving, as we say here. And you see people cashing in on this kind of leverage that is derived from this sort of value in many different ways. So there's a lot of charismatic leaders that people want to work with, that employees think are transformative and visionary, like Elon Musk, even when he took over Twitter and fired all these different people. A lot of people wanted to stay because they just wanted to work with him, even under more difficult working conditions. So he's cashed in on that kind of personal leverage to get more out of some of the employees who now work for him. And then in a more general sense, people who negotiate salary, right? They may have specific marketplace knowledge and industry statistics of salaries for their profession. They may have great negotiation skills, or they just might have some other types of value in the most important 5 ways that I mentioned earlier that they know is in demand with that employer, and they use it to their advantage. Let me give you an example. There's this guy that I worked with, I don't know, 15 years ago, pre-AI. He's really great with analytics and super amazing with Excel. He's an absolute Excel whiz, and I would say pretty much the only one in the organization that had those kinds of skills. So he played a support role where he was creating all kinds of complicated reports. We had like terrible information systems where we had different systems and different software that produced numbers. Aggregating it and formatting it and putting it into Excel was a huge pain. He was really good at it and created all kinds of amazing reports. That was a skill. That was his job. Very important skill. His job didn't change materially in the several years that I worked with him, but he got 2 promotions while I was there. That's the kind of stuff that happens because he was so valuable. He had a skill that was needed. He was really good at it. Nobody was even close. He had leverage and he cashed in on it. Simply how it works. So that's my question for you. What are you working on that's going to be so, amazing or important that can create leverage for you to negotiate a better salary, to get a better job, or in any way move forward in your career? That's the question. And if you're not doing it, let's start working on it. Okay, so we definitely need a plan to boost our value by working on those 5 critical value drivers. So how do we do that? How do we put that together? Well, I will have some dedicated videos on that. And this topic will also cut across a number of other videos, so we'll be talking about it a lot. But for now, for this video, let me leave you with a few things that are not too difficult to activate. Number one, don't discount the likelihood that you have way more value than you think you have. It has been my long-standing belief that very few of us know ourselves. Most of you listening, even me, I'm 185 years old and I think about this stuff all the time. I am only beginning to understand myself. So most of you, I'm pretty comfortable in saying, are just scratching the surface. We don't think about our value a lot. We think about it a little bit in terms of strengths and weaknesses, but that's just scratching the surface. And what do we do with resumes? We try to make them look pretty. We try to make them look convincing. We follow some tips and use action words and those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, a resume is just us barfing our life and employment and educational history out into a document in some semi-organized fashion and make it look pretty. And we send it off to the employer and we pray to God they can figure out what's so great about us. We don't think about it in those terms, but if you pause and consider what I just said for a few minutes, you realize it's exactly what it is we do. Same thing with interviews, right? We answer questions to the best of our abilities and we trust the process that hopefully the interviewer is asking all the right questions that will extract all the value that we have. It doesn't quite work that way. That's just a small part of it. So what you need to do, and I know this term is a little bit cringy, and once again, I apologize. I'm a Canadian. I'm, apologizing for everything. You need to self-reflect. You need to think about yourself. You need to notice more things that are in your background. One of the best places to start is with your accomplishments. And hopefully you have some. If you have no accomplishments, separate problem, go get some, is my answer, my very short answer for that. We will come back to that in another video. Hopefully, if you've been on the planet for at least 20 years, you haven't just been sitting on the couch, you've been doing some things and you've accomplished some goals or some results. So go back to those. Or maybe if you want to learn about your weaknesses and development areas, find places where you did have a goal, but you did not accomplish a goal, because there's a lot of learning there as well. But go first to the things that you did accomplish. The second part of the question, because we remember the accomplishments because it gives us a really a positive jolt of emotion, but we forget the second question. What did I do to make those results or those accomplishments happen? The answer to that question gives a substantial indication to what your skills are. And if you're familiar with the STAR format of interviewing, it's that sort of action. What action did you take? We just get focused on, there were certain action steps that I took, but, go deeper into that and you will realize that there's skills that are beneath that. Those skills could be things like discipline, initiative, creativity, personal influence. There's all sorts of things that you're deploying and using in order to accomplish those goals and those results. This is where we miss out. We catalog the accomplishments in our brain. Those things stick with us. We do not reflect and we do not catalog and tag the skills that we have deployed to get there. Like, we don't come home. So say, for example, you presented a proposal that you worked on really hard and created this beautiful presentation and went to your vice president and said, hey, you did this half-hour presentation on why we should invest in this one thing, that's this idea that I have, and you're successful. You're going to come home and you're going to say, wow, I got the vice president to approve this thing, that we're all now going to be working on, and it's going to be a great result for the organization. You will remember that part of it, but you don't come home and flop on the couch or go out for a drink or something and say, wow, did I ever deploy superior communication and personal influence skills in order to, convince the vice president to sign off on it? We don't think in those terms. So we don't catalog our skills. So we go through life using skills, showcasing skills, but not realizing that we're doing it because we don't tag those experiences. The best way I can say it, like we tag content digitally sometimes, we don't tag experiences and store them in our brain and in our memory. So we only remember the accomplishment, and we do a terrible job of selling the skills that we used to achieve that result. Are you following what I'm saying? Reflect on that. dig into the contributions that you made individually or on a team to achieve a result. Think about that deeply. Here's another simple example. I had a student that I was teaching, and I talk a lot about value, and she was just frustrated that she really didn't think she had any value, and she was graduating and she didn't know how to sell herself. So I sat with her and really dug into how she worked. How did she go about even doing things on a day-to-day basis, even if she couldn't think of a specific accomplishment? So it's like, how do you do things? And one of the things we uncovered is she's somebody who doesn't just put her head down and do her own work. She's looking around. Even if she's in an assistant role, she will be looking around and saying, oh, the team itself is not working toward a timely completion of a goal, so this is a problem. She will proactively start jumping in and helping other people. And if she sees that there are additional barriers, she will enroll the manager or the supervisor, let them know that they're falling off track, not in a destructive way where you complain about the other employees, but to just give the supervisor a heads up that we need your support and your guidance in order to achieve goals and results in a timely fashion in the way you want it. That's a lot of value. That's being very proactive. That's incredible teamwork skills. That's results orientation. I was giving her all these buzzwords. That's what you do on a day-to-day basis. Those are skills, and employers find that shit to be really valuable. You need to be talking about that stuff. And last I heard, she started talking about it a little bit more in her cover letter. And last I had heard, that was getting her some results in terms of scoring interviews, because employers had a better sense of what she brought to the table other than just work experience and credentials. Self-reflect is a minefield, I guess, in the best possible way. Like, you want to find those mines in this case. So I don't know what the positive version of a minefield is. Do some self-reflecting, leave some comments, let me know what you're coming up with, and I'd be really excited to hear from some of you, especially if you're starting to scratch the surface on where some of your value is in those 5 important value drivers. Second thing you can do, if self-reflecting is really difficult, is ask someone. Pull someone aside, someone who knows how you work, somebody that you worked with at school. I have my students do this sometimes as an exercise in organizational behavior to help learn about themselves. Somebody that you've worked with, at work, somebody who's been your manager, somebody who has some sense of how you work and how you perform. And this is an exceptionally important exercise if you worked in organizations that have truly shitty performance review systems where you never get any feedback or great feedback. Raise your hand if you've ever been in that situation. So you need to run around and start asking people and see what they think. People find out so much about themselves by just asking questions. Invite feedback. And I know Gen Z, you're good with this. You guys are totally cool with getting feedback, and you can handle it if it's given to you in a productive way. So go off and do that. Learn about yourself. You'll find out, not only what your strengths are, but what are you missing and what are you holding back. And many times you learn things about yourself that are very different than what you think. A very common one is people will say, oh, you're so calm under pressure. And you'll be like, what the hell are they talking about? Because whenever you're under stress, you're just freaking out inside. But it doesn't matter. It's what other people see, right? So there's disconnects like that all over the place. You may come up empty through this entire process of self-reflecting and asking other people. That may be in itself an uncomfortable insight that you need to confront and then take action on. So that is something that can happen through self-reflection and through asking other people that you still don't have a clear sense of your value, because people just don't see in enough ways like how you stand out, and you can't see it yourself. So be prepared for that. The vast majority of you will not have that experience. Some of you will. And if that is the insight that you have, be okay with it. It's good to know that now, so you can do as we're preaching in this video and on this channel, you can intentionally work to change that. You've done all your self-reflecting, you've asked other people, and now you have some sense, hopefully, of your value. Now you need to activate a plan, and that is identify the things that you want to work on. So how do you do that? Here's the simplest thing that you can do. I tell students this all the time, and especially young professionals who are just getting started and trying to figure out, how to get where they're going in their career. Go find a job description for a position that you want to have in the next 1 to 2 years. Don't worry if your plans change Just your best thinking today. Roughly 1 to 2 years. It could be 6 months, could be 3 years, whatever it is. It's something in the reachable future, a job that you want to have. Or collect that information internally if you want to stay with the organization that you're currently in. Read what it's asking for and line yourself up. What value drivers do you have? Which ones are you missing? And activate a plan to put yourself in a position to be ready for that job when the time comes. Because there's nothing to say that the work that you're being given now, the work you're going to be given over the next 6 months or a year, is going to help you demonstrate those skills in order to be ready for that kind of job. It's the simplest exercise that you could possibly do. Let me give you an example. Teamwork. I talk about this one with students all the time because it's something they do regularly at business school. And I'm especially hard on the students who are like in first and second year. I tell them, it's like, you're going to be here for another 2, 3, 4 years. You have an opportunity to build and develop and showcase skills that you have that can help get you hired, because your degree is just table stakes. As I talked about earlier, your degree is only going to get your resume looked at. You've got to figure out how to get over the hump and get the job. Teamwork is a very common interpersonal skill that many organizations are looking for. So you need to be intentional about it. Again, there's that word. How do you do that? Well, the next time you do group work, how many times have you done group work, especially any of you who are students, and half, if not all the people in the group are just kind of there, lizard brain. They're there hanging out, waiting for somebody to tell them what to do. And their greatest contribution to the group is that maybe they have done their fair share of work. I'm able to identify those people pretty easily when I interview. When you do the STAR format of interviewing, so you start really with the result. I want to hear what the result was, but then the A, what were the action steps that you took to achieve that result? I dig heavily into that because far too many people just did their fair share of contributing to the team. You need to change that game and, again, be a lot more intentional about what it is that you're trying to demonstrate. So let's say it's a really big project. It's the capstone project in the last semester of your education. I tell my semester 8 students this as well. So start with a goal. What do you want your goal to be? I want to get an A. We want to be the best project in the class. We want to impress the employer or just the company that we're doing the project for so much that they're going to want to hire us. You can frame your goals any way you want, but just make sure they're fairly, lofty and challenging. Now, how are you going to get there? How are you specifically going to contribute to the team to help the team achieve this goal? You have a situation that's right in front of you to demonstrate and showcase these skills if you are intentional about it. Once again, you may organize the team, make sure the team stays on track. If they're getting off track, if the milestones are not being reached, then you whip the team into shape. Maybe you're really inspirational about helping the team meet deadlines. Maybe you're great with creative problem solving. You have a lot of creativity. Maybe you have great interpersonal skills and you resolve conflict so that the team doesn't get bogged down. There's all kinds of things that you can do to show competency on a team, and employers value all of this. But if you have the lizard brain and you just show up and you wait for somebody to tell you what to do and you at most do your fair share, you have nothing to talk about. And so many people who graduate with degrees miss out on opportunities like this all the time. Teamwork, leadership, initiative, all those things, being reliable. What do employers want? We'll talk about some of those specific things in other videos. It's all set up for you. Okay? Now you have enough to get you started until we go deeper in future videos. Before we close off for today, one warning when it comes to leverage. Leverage is a pretty powerful thing, and it's intoxicating and exciting when you acquire it. Too much leverage can be a bit of a problem because it gets to your head. And that happened to me when I got started in my marketing career after my MBA. My career just took off like a rocket. People were talking about me. I showed up with a lot of energy. I have a lot of passion for the things that I do, so I naturally bring energy. I have a ton of creativity. I take a lot of initiative, and in most cases, I'm pretty highly productive. So without even trying, I was like kicking ass and taking names, and it was great. There was a lot of awesome PR about me. And that got to my head, and it affected some of my behaviors. Not every day, but it came out inopportune times. I would be really direct with some people, maybe dismissive with other people, maybe a little bit arrogant on occasion. So over time, without going into all the details of the story, I will just say that I needed to be pushed back a little bit more close to reality, because you can alienate yourself if you're not too careful. But this issue tends to be less of a problem with individual employees like me and you. This is a bigger problem with leaders and employers. There is an all too prevalent mindset among companies and some of their leaders is that we have the job and the money that you want, so the onus is on you to impress and many times to sacrifice. Not so. Quality employees, the ones with leverage, they have options, and they will choose and remain with the employers that impress them the most. So recruiters and employers, if you're not sensitive to the balance of power and when you have it and when you do not have the leverage, you're going to lose out on some of the best employees and be one of those companies that is regularly complaining that there just isn't any incredible talent out there for us to hire. Well, newsflash, there is. There's tons of people, many of you are listening right now, that offer a lot of value to employers. It's just that they've heard about you probably, or they've seen you in action and they have self-selected out. Said another way, you've scared all the good people off. So it's important to be thinking about how you are creating an engaging recruitment experience. And I'll go into that in a dedicated video later on in this series. This is something I have experience with, and I have, clear metrics of success for having done this in the past. It's incredibly important if you want to get all the best people. All right, that's enough for today. Value, leverage, super important. Please keep working on it. Even work on one little thing if that's all you have time for. Keeps you moving forward. See how that all comes together on this video channel. Lots more to come on this topic and many other topics. Please like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to quickly get access to more videos as they come out. Share your thoughts and ideas and experiences relative to the content in this video if you have any, and I will respond and or incorporate some of your thoughts and ideas into future videos. But for now, please just keep it moving. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.